The Last Light on Willow Street, a midnight horror story. Before we start the video, just a small request. Your one like, one share, and one subscribe mean a lot to us. Your support is our biggest strength in growing this channel. So please subscribe, press the bell icon, and don't forget to like and share the video. Willow Street was always quiet after midnight. The kind of quiet that felt wrong, like the air was holding its breath. Mia had just moved into her new apartment, small, cheap, and old, but close to her college. Everything was fine during the day, but the nights were different. It started on her third night. At exactly 12:03 a.m., the hallway light outside her apartment flickered. Once, twice, then stayed dim, glowing like it was dying. Mia ignored it. Old building, faulty wiring, typical. But as she lay in bed scrolling her phone, she heard it. A soft, slow knock. Tap, tap, tap. Right on her door. She froze. It was too late for visitors, and she didn't know anyone in the building yet. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. This time slightly louder. She crept toward the peephole, her breath caught in her throat. Someone was standing there. A tall, thin figure, motionless, head slightly tilted like it was listening for something. Mia whispered to herself, "Go away." As if it heard her, the figure leaned closer, just enough that its shadow stretched across her entire door. And then, the hallway light went out. Pitch black. Mia stepped back, heart racing. When the light flickered back on, the figure was gone. She barely slept. The next night, 12:03 a.m., the hallway light flickered again. Then the knock. Tap, tap, tap. Mia didn't move this time. She pulled her blanket to her chest and whispered, "Please stop." This time, the knocking didn't stop. It got slower, deeper, heavier. Thud, thud, thud. The door shook with every hit. She dialed 911 with trembling fingers. Before the call connected, everything suddenly stopped. Silence. When police arrived, they checked the footage. Every hallway camera showed the same thing. No one had been outside her door. Not a single shape, not a single shadow. Just Mia, alone, in the hallway. The officer placed a hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, whatever you heard, it wasn't coming from the hallway." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "Your neighbors reported the same knocking last year, and the year before. They all said the exact same thing." She felt her throat tighten. "And what's that?" The officer stared at her door. That the knocking was coming from inside the apartment. Mia turned slowly toward her living room. The lights dimmed. A shadow stretched across the wall, long, tall, and bending like a broken spine. Then she heard a whisper behind her, right next to her ear. "You heard me. You opened the door." And the knocking started again, from inside the walls. Mia didn't scream at first. She couldn't. Her throat felt locked, like the shadow itself was pressing down on her lungs. The knocking continued, slow, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat, coming from inside the walls she had been sleeping next to, the walls she leaned on every night while studying. Thud, thud, thud. Her living room lamp flickered. The bulb hummed loudly, casting sharp, broken shadows across the room. Every time it blinked off, the dark shape in the corner seemed to shift, closer, taller,
clearer. Mia took a shaky step back, reaching blindly for her phone. The officer had left only minutes ago. If she called again, maybe they'd return. The screen lit up. No signal. A text notification flashed instead. Unknown, let me in. Her blood ran cold. Her shaking thumb hovered over the power button, but her phone vibrated again. Unknown, you already did. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. For a moment, Mia couldn't even hear her own breathing, just the sound of the muffled knocking inside the walls, like something was crawling or trying to claw its way out. She stumbled backward, bumping into the kitchen counter. Her hand brushed against a drawer. She yanked it open and pulled out the first thing she felt, a kitchen knife. The metal trembled in her grasp. Something moved in the darkness. Not footsteps, not breathing, just movement, like the air was shifting, becoming heavier, thicker, like something was watching. She whispered, "Stay away," her voice cracking. A whisper answered back, soft and wrong, "I'm already here." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She swung the knife wildly, cutting only empty air. Then, just as suddenly as it had vanished, the lamp in the living room flickered back on. Mia's lungs dropped. The shadow had moved. It was standing in the center of the room now, tall, distorted, its head tilted in that same sickening angle she'd seen through the peephole. Its arms were too long, hands tapering into thin, finger-like points. Its body seemed to bend and ripple like smoke, except its eyes? Its eyes glowed faint electric blue, cold, empty, hungry. Mia stumbled backward. "What do you want from me?" The shadow tilted its head again. When it spoke, the voice didn't come from its mouth. It came from everywhere. "Someone let me in, and I never left." The temperature dropped so fast Mia could see her breath. Her brain raced. Someone let it in? The officer had said it happened to others, that tenants in this very building reported the same knocking every year. What if she hadn't been the first one to answer? Maybe the thing wasn't standing outside any door. Maybe it was inside the building already, waiting for someone new, someone alone, someone who didn't know its tricks. Her breath hitched. What happened to them?" she whispered. The shadow took a step closer. "Would you like to meet them?" The lamp popped, glass shattered, darkness again. Mia screamed now, raw, desperate. She bolted toward the door, gripping the knife, slamming into furniture she couldn't see. She reached the doorknob, twisted. It didn't move. She twisted again until her fingers burned. Locked. The knocking behind the walls rose sharply, faster, louder, as if responding to her panic. Thud, dud, dud, dud. Then, silence. A silence so absolute it felt crushed under its own weight. Mia backed away from the door. She couldn't hear the shadow anymore, couldn't feel its presence. For a terrifying second, she thought it might have disappeared entirely. A whisper cut through the darkness, right behind her. "You're looking the wrong way." She dropped the knife. It clattered too loudly against the floor. Her breath stilled. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. Every instinct screamed that if she looked at it directly, something worse would happen. But the whisper moved closer. "You invited me in. I waited in the walls. I learned your voice." Her knees buckled. She fell against the floor, crawling blindly away. "And now, it's your turn to stay." The hallway lights outside her apartment flickered again, leaking a faint yellow glow under the door crack. Mia scrambled toward it. If she could just open the door, just get outside, maybe she could run, scream, find help, anything. Her fingers brushed the lock. The lock clipped. Her heart soared. She yanked the door open and froze. The hallway was filled with people, dozens of them, standing completely still, all facing her door, all silent. Their faces were pale, eyes wide, and each of their necks was tilted at the exact same angle as the shadow. Some had dried blood under their nails, some had bruises around their mouths, as if something had held them shut. They didn't blink, they didn't breathe. All of them stared at Mia. In the back of the crowd, the shadow rose behind them, towering, watching, waiting. Mia choked on a sob. Please, please let me go. The shadow stepped forward between the motionless bodies. They didn't react as it passed through them like smoke. Its eyes glowed brighter. They let me in. Now you will let me take you out. The crowd stepped forward together, one synchronized, unnatural motion. Mia slammed the door shut, but hands, cold, stiff, many hands, grabbed the edge before it closed. She pushed with all her strength, tears blurring her vision. A whisper spread behind her, like hundreds of voices layered together. Stay, stay, stay. The hands forced the door open, inch by inch. Mia screamed, and then the house lights went out. The apartment lights went out. Every light in the entire building went out. A single text lit up her phone screen on the floor. Unknown. You should have never answered the knock. And the last thing she heard was a soft, slow tap coming right beside her ear. Tap, tap, tap.
Darkness swallowed Mia whole. Not normal darkness. This felt alive, pulsing, breathing, crawling over her skin like cold fingers. She didn't know if her eyes were open or closed. The world had gone pitch black after the hands forced the door open. She couldn't hear the crowd anymore, couldn't hear the shadows whisper. Just her own heartbeat hammering in her skull. Then, a sound. Soft, wet, dragging. Chef, chef, chef. Like something was being pulled across the floor toward her. Mia sucked in a trembling breath. Who's there? Her voice cracked. Something answered. Not with words, with breathing. Slow, raspy, too close. A faint glow blinked into existence. Blue, cold, the same unnatural electric blue she saw in the shadow's eyes. It floated in the darkness like two distant stars, until she realized they were getting closer. Her stomach dropped. The two blue lights weren't eyes. They were reflections in a mirror lying on the floor. The mirror she hadn't noticed before. The mirror that hadn't been in her apartment. Mia crawled backward, her palm pressing on the glass. The moment she touched it, her heartbeat, her reflection, rippled in the mirror like a drop of ink in water. Then the mirror spoke. You don't belong here, but you are here now. Mia jerked her hand back, eyes wide. The reflection in the mirror wasn't her. It was a woman, emaciated, hair covering her face, hands shaking as if she'd been trapped for years. Bruises lined her arms. Her lips were cracked, almost torn. But the worst part, when she raised a hand in the mirror, the real Mia didn't move. This wasn't a reflection. This was someone else. Who are you? Mia whispered. The woman pressed her palm against the inside of the mirror, desperate. Don't open the door. Don't answer the knocking. Mia felt her pulse melt into fear. Why? What happens? The woman's voice broke into a trembling cry. It chooses you. The shadow? She shook violently. It's not a shadow. It's...
Her voice distorted, her face blurred. The mirror vibrated violently like someone was banging from the inside. Thud, thud, thud. The woman screamed, her voice slicing through Mia's spine. And then the mirror shattered. Glass exploded outward, cutting Mia's arms as she shielded her face. The glowing blue mist that had been inside the mirror spilled into the darkness like a smoke escaping a sealed box. Mia coughed, stumbling backward, and when the mist cleared, the apartment wasn't dark anymore. It wasn't even her apartment. She stood in a dim hallway, a hallway from another time. Wallpaper peeling, carpet stained, light bulbs hanging crooked, a musty, rotten smell filling the air. This was Willow Street, but decades earlier. A voice echoed softly down the hall. "You're not supposed to be here." Mia jumped, turning around. A man in a janitor's uniform stood behind her, holding a flashlight. His face was pale, tired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He stared at her as if he recognized her. "You're alive," he whispered. Mia's chest tightened. "Where am I?" The janitor glanced nervously at the dark, far end of the hallway. "You're in Willow Street, but not your Willow Street." He took a trembling breath. "This is 1997. Mia's lungs faltered. "No, impossible! How did I get here?" He shook his head slowly. "You didn't come here." His voice cracked. "You were brought." A deep, distant thud shook the walls. The janitor flinched. "We need to move. It's awake." They hurried down the hallway. The floorboards groaned beneath every step, groaned like they were in pain. Yellow door numbers passed by. 303, 304, 305. Mia whispered, "What is that thing? That shadow?" The janitor gave her a haunted look. "Not a shadow. Shadows come from something real." He swallowed hard. "That thing is what's left when something real is erased." Before Mia could speak, another loud thud echoed, closer this time. The hallway light flickered, and every door slowly began to open, one by one, revealing darkness inside each room. The janitor grabbed her wrist. "Don't look at them! Don't!" A door beside them opened with a violent swing. A man stumbled out, pale, shaking, eyes hollow, his head tilted sharply in the exact same crooked angle as the crowd from her building. He stared directly at Mia. Then another stepped out, and another. Men, women, teenagers, all with the same stiff, unnatural posture, all deathly silent. The janitor whispered through clenched teeth, "They answered the knock." The crowd stepped forward simultaneously. Mia backed up, pulse racing. The janitor held up his flashlight, hands shaking. "Stay behind me." The flashlight flickered, died. The hallway plunged into darkness again. Mia grabbed the janitor's sleeve, whispering, "What do they want?" He whispered back, "They want to replace you." A hand reached out of the darkness and grabbed Mia's ankle. She screamed. The janitor swung his arm, knocking the hand away. "Run!" They sprinted down the hall as dozens of footsteps slapped against the floor behind them. The sound grew louder, faster, until she could feel breath on the back of her neck that wasn't hers. A door ahead was open. A stairwell. They bolted inside. The stairwell was spiraling downward into total blackness. Mia hesitated. "We can't see." The janitor squeezed her arm. You're safer running blind than staying here." She swallowed her fear and followed him down. Shadows moved along the walls, chasing them. Hands grabbed at the railings. Whispering voices filled the stairwell like a swarm of bees. "Stay, stay, 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 stay." The janitor tripped on the last step and fell hard. Mia knelt beside him. "Are you okay?" His eyes widened in terror. "Mia, don't move." She slowly turned her head. At the top of the stairwell, towering over everything, was the entity. But now she could see it fully. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't shadow. It was a mass of twisted bodies. Limbs, faces, spines merged into a single towering form, all whispering the same word from 100 mouths. "Stay, stay, stay, stay." Mia choked, backing away. The janitor whispered, "It grows with every soul it takes." The entity extended a long, broken arm toward them. The walls started to pulse. The stairwell warped, bending like it was melting. The janitor shoved Mia away. "Go! Don't let it take you too! Run!" Mia screamed, running through a warped door, and fell straight back into her own apartment. She hit the wooden floor hard. Her lights were back. Her furniture was exactly where it had been. It was her world again. She crawled to the door, breath shaking, and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, silent, still. But on her door, written in a crooked black streak, were 2 words: "Not done." And then a soft knock. Tap, tap, tap.
Silence filled the apartment after the knock. Not comfort silence. This was the kind that waits, listens, breathes. Mia pressed her back to the wall, staring at the door as the soft knocking repeated. Tap, tap, tap. Her pulse quickened. The words smeared across the door, "not done," seemed to throb with each sound. She forced herself to whisper, "Who's there?" The knocking stopped. Her phone buzzed. One message. "Unknown. Don't ask who. Ask where you are." Mia swallowed hard. "Where am I?" A second message appeared instantly, as if the sender stood inches behind her. "Unknown. Between." Between? Between what? A low hum filled the room. The lights flickered, once, twice. Then the walls of her apartment began to shift. The wallpaper rippled like waves. The corners stretched, bending into impossible angles. The floorboards groaned as if something underneath them was moving upward. Her breath stilled. She wasn't out of the nightmare. She was deeper. A sudden slam rattled the apartment. Her kitchen cabinet burst open, dishes crashing onto the floor. Another slam, her closet door flew wide, darkness pouring from it like smoke. Something was coming out. Long fingers, too long, wrapped around the closet frame. Mia rushed backward toward the window, but the outside wasn't her street. It wasn't even night. It was a hallway. The hallway she had escaped. 1997 Willow Street. Peeling wallpaper, flickering bulb, stained carpet. But this time the hallway wasn't empty. A shadow moved at the far end. Then another.
and another. A dozen figures emerged, heads tilted at that same impossible angle, all facing her, all stepping forward in slow, synchronized motions. Mia felt her lungs collapse. No, 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 no! She spun to run back into her apartment, but it was gone. She was already inside the hallway. The wallpaper rippled behind her like a curtain closing. Footsteps echoed. Not hers. Not theirs. Someone else. A man sprinted from a side corridor, almost colliding with her. His shirt was torn, smeared with dust, his chest rising and falling rapidly. He recognized him. The janitor. The same man from 1997, but older, more broken. You were... She couldn't finish. He grabbed her shoulder urgently. Listen to me. It's not done with you. Once it marks someone, they don't survive long. She backed away from him. What is it? You said it's not a shadow, but you never told me. It doesn't have a name, only a hunger. The footsteps behind them grew louder. The crowd of crooked-necked figures was closing in. The janitor pulled her down the hall. Come on! They ran, but the hallway warped as they moved, doors shifting places, ceilings stretching, walls trembling like skin under pressure. This place isn't real. It's real, just not alive the way you think. A sharp crack cut through the corridor. The lights exploded, showering sparks. Everything went black. Mia grabbed the janitor's arm. I can't see. His voice whispered back, trembling. Neither can it. That didn't comfort her. A faint glow appeared, a strip of light under a door ahead. He whispered, through there. They stumbled toward it, hands scraping the wall. Behind them, in the dark, dozens of whispers hissed at once. Stay, stay, stay. The janitor shoved open the glowing door, and they walked into a bedroom. Old-fashioned, dusty, a child's toys scattered on the floor, a mobile above the bed hanging crooked and motionless. This is a kid's room, Mia whispered. Not a kid, the kid. The janitor said, voice breaking. Her stomach twisted. A small wooden diary sat on the nightstand. The janitor picked it up. Don't, Mia said. We shouldn't. We have no choice. He opened the diary. The pages were filled with childish handwriting. Today, the knocking came again. I didn't open the door. Mommy said not to. The knocking wants me to answer. It said my name tonight. It sounded like me. Mia's heart pounded. Page after page grew darker, frantic, smeared. It asked to come inside. I said no. It came inside anyway. It dragged Daddy into the walls. Mommy stopped screaming yesterday. It said it wants someone new. It told me to wait forever. The last page was a scribbled mess. They both stared at it. Where's the kid? Mia whispered. The janitor's breathing trembled. He's here. Mia turned slowly. The closet door in the room was cracked open. A pair of small blue glowing eyes stared from inside. Her blood froze. The janitor whispered, Don't move. The door creaked wider. A child stepped out, pale, neck angled, hands dragging on the floor, face blank, no features, except two hollow glowing eyes. It shuddered once, then whispered with a tiny broken voice, He said you belong to us now. The walls shook violently, the floor split like cracking ice, shadows poured out. Mia screamed, What does it want? The janitor grabbed her hand. It wants replacements. The child lunged. Mia dodged, tripping over the bed. The creature moved unnaturally fast, its joints cracking as it twisted toward her. The janitor stepped between them. Take me instead. The child froze, then shook its head slowly. Already yours. Behind Mia, the shadows surged upward, forming the towering shape, the entity merging with the darkness. Hundreds of arms reaching out. The janitor yelled, "Run!" Mia scrambled to her feet, sprinting toward the door. The hallway was collapsing, the carpet tearing open as hands reached from underneath. The child's whisper echoed behind her. "Don't run. Running makes it hungry." She didn't stop. She burst through the door into another corridor. But this time, the wallpaper wasn't peeling. It wasn't stained. It was new. She was back in her building, back in 2025. But the lights were flickering wildly. The air was freezing. And down the hall, someone stood at the far end. A girl, hair hanging over her face, hands limp, neck crooked. Mia froze. The girl lifted her head. Her face came into view. It was hers, a perfect copy. The copy smiled, an impossible stretched smile. "Almost done," it whispered. "Told you we'd replace you." Then it stepped forward and began to run.
The night deepened into a suffocating silence as Emily climbed the narrow steps leading to the attic. Each step groaned under her weight, as if warning her not to continue. The flashlight trembled slightly in her hand, its beam cutting through layers of dust, floating like ghostly snowflakes. Below her, Michael stood at the base of the stairs, looking up with a mixture of worry and stubborn determination. "Just don't stay up there alone," he said. "I won't," Emily replied. Though she knew she was lying, she needed answers. Alone. The attic door creaked open before she touched it. Her breath froze. A cold draft swept out, brushing her skin with icy fingers. It smelled like wet soil and something metallic, something like blood. Emily stepped inside. The attic was cluttered with old crates, broken toys, and furniture draped in white sheets. The moon spilled through the single round window at the far end, painting everything in an eerie blue glow. But what stopped Emily in her tracks was the familiar notebook lying at the center of the attic floor. Her notebook, the one she had left locked in her room. Her heartbeat hammered so loudly she could hear it echo in her ears. She stepped closer. Her fingers touched the torn cover, but before she could pick it up, a whisper slid across the room. "You wrote beautifully." Emily's breath hitched. She spun around. Nobody. No shape, no shadow. Just the thick, motionless darkness. She swallowed, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Who's there?" A laugh responded this time. Light, childlike, but warped, like a recording played backwards. Emily took a step back. The attic suddenly felt smaller, or maybe the darkness was growing. She turned and grabbed the notebook, flipping it open. Every page she had written was gone, replaced by a single sentence written over and over in jagged handwriting. "I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you." Her throat tightened. That's not possible. Then her eyes fell to the last page. A fresh message appeared right in front of her, like invisible fingers were dragging letters into the paper. "Look at the window." Emily froze. Slowly, unwillingly, she lifted her eyes toward the circular attic window, and her heart nearly tore itself out of her chest. Something stood outside. A tall, twisted figure, its limbs impossibly long, its face stretched into a wide, broken smile, and eyes glowing like molten silver. Its fingers scraped rhythmically on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. It was smiling at her. Emily stumbled backward, her breath breaking. "Michael!" she screamed, but her voice came out strangled. The creature pressed its face to the glass, the skin rippled, bones cracked with wet snapping sounds. And then the window latch began to lift by itself. "No! No! No! Stop!" Emily cried, rushing forward. But she froze as the creature tilted its head. Its lips moved slowly. "Let me in." Emily didn't think. She lunged at the window, slamming the latch down, just as the creature jerked it upward with a violence that rattled the glass. A hiss escaped from its throat, low, predatory, furious. Emily backed away, chest heaving. The creature pressed its forehead against the glass, fogging it with every breath. Then, with a smile too wide for any human skull, it whispered, "You can't stay awake forever. Midnight comes again." And with a spine-cracking twist, it crawled upward over the roof and vanished. Emily collapsed on the floor, shaking. The attic door burst open. Michael rushed in, eyes wide. "Emily, what happened? I heard you scream." She shoved the notebook at him. He flipped it open. Blank. Every page was blank. "I swear it said something was in here, Michael. Something was at the window." Michael placed his hands on her shoulders. "Emily, your mind is exhausted. You haven't slept properly in days. Midnight events, sleep paralysis, hallucinations. It's possible." "It's not hallucinations," she snapped. "It opened the latch. It knew my writing. It spoke my name." Michael hesitated. "Please, let's just go downstairs." Emily followed him reluctantly, but every shadow seemed to move. Every dark corner breathed. Downstairs, the lights flickered again. 3 slow times. Emily's pulse spiked. That's what it did earlier. Michael glanced upward. Probably wiring. This house is from the 1900s. A deep thud echoed from the hallway. They both froze. "Emily, Michael, tell me that wasn't you." It wasn't. Another thud, closer, heavy, slow, like footsteps from something dragging weight behind it. The hall light flickered. A shadow spread across the wall, not moving like a human. Its limbs bent wrong, its body stretched too far, and its head turned unnaturally slowly towards them. Emily grabbed Michael's arm. "Don't move." The shadow paused. Then, it stepped out from behind the corner. But there was nothing there. Just an empty hallway. Michael swallowed. Maybe it's just the lights, playing tricks. Emily shook her head. No, shadows don't exist without something casting them. The house vibrated suddenly, like something massive slammed into the walls from the outside. Michael jumped. "What the?" Emily's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. With trembling hands, she pulled it out. A new video file, sent from an unknown number. It was time-stamped 1 minute into the future. Michael stared. That's impossible." Emily opened the video. The screen showed the very living room they were standing in. Then the camera panned toward Emily. Her on-screen reflection looked terrified, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Behind her in the video, the tall creature stood inches away, its hand reaching for her shoulder. The video cut to black. Emily's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Michael's voice cracked. "Emily, we need to leave, right now." But Emily didn't move.
She felt it. Cold breath on her neck. Something was standing directly behind her. Emily's entire body locked in place. Her breathing stopped. Her pulse froze in her veins because she knew, she felt something towering inches behind her. Michael's eyes widened in horror as they locked onto the empty space hovering behind her shoulder. "Emily?" His voice broke. "Don't move." Her throat was dry. "Is it—" "Don't turn around," he whispered. "Just come to me. Slowly." Emily tried to step forward, but the air around her felt thick, like invisible hands were gripping her limbs. A soft, wet breathing sound slid across the back of her neck. Slow. Hungry. Her heart pounded so violently she thought it might burst. Then, a cold fingertip pressed against the back of her spine. Emily gasped. "Run!" Michael yelled. But Emily didn't have to be told twice. Her body broke free, adrenaline blasting through her like electricity. She sprinted toward Michael just as the lights shut off with a violent snap. Darkness swallowed the room. "Michael?" Emily screamed. "Here, I'm right here." He grabbed her hand, pulling her close. Then the sound came again. Not footsteps. Crawling. Fast. Wet. Bone-twisting. It moved across the ceiling. Emily and Michael crouched behind the couch, shaking uncontrollably. A soft laugh echoed. Not a child's laugh. Not human. Something ancient. Something delighted. Emily covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. Michael whispered, "If it can shut off the lights, if it can open windows, what else can it do?" Emily didn't want to know. A sudden crash shook the house as something massive landed on the dining table. Wood splintered and flew across the floor. The creature's shadow swelled across the walls, tall and distorted, its limbs stretching like melted wax, its neck bending at impossible angles. And then it spoke. "You shouldn't have written about me, Emily." Her blood froze. Michael squeezed her hand. But then something unexpected happened. Emily shoved Michael away. "Don't touch him," she snarled at the darkness. "Leave him alone. This is between you and me." The creature paused. Then it laughed. Slow. Mocking. Amused. "Brave writer. But you don't understand the story." Suddenly, Emily's phone rang. The ringtone was distorted. Pitch shifted into a deep, monstrous tone. She answered with trembling hands. "Hello?" A voice identical to hers spoke on the other end. "Emily." The other Emily whispered. "Don't look at its face." The call ended instantly. Emily dropped the phone, trembling violently. What was that?" Michael stared at her in disbelief. "Emily, that voice sounded like—" "Me," she finished. The creature moved again. Closer. Crawling towards them. The carpet sunk under its weight. Emily and Michael bolted for the door, but the doorknob twisted on its own, locking with a sharp click. "No, no!" Emily screamed, yanking it uselessly. Michael grabbed a chair and swung. The wood shattered, but the door didn't even scrape. "Why won't it open?" he yelled. A whisper slithered right behind Michael's ear. "Because you're already inside." Michael froze. Emily pulled him back. The hallway light flickered on for a split second, just enough to reveal the creature standing directly in front of them. Its face wasn't a face at all, just a long stretch of pale skin, covered in shifting mouths, whispering silently, and blinking eyes that opened and closed like gasping wounds. Emily's scream tore out of her throat. Michael pulled her back as the creature lunged, but instead of attacking, it froze in place. Every mouth on its face stopped moving. Every eye locked onto Emily, as if something else caught its attention. Something behind Emily. Emily turned slowly. The old grandfather clock at the end of the hall was moving again. Tick, tick, tick. The second hand jerked forward, then backward, then forward again, spinning wildly. The time jumped to 12 a.m. Midnight. But it's not midnight yet, Emily whispered. Michael checked his phone. It's 11:17. That clock is wrong. No, Emily said shakily. It's not wrong. The creature let out an inhuman hiss, shrinking back like the clock itself was hurting it. Emily and Michael, that thing, it's scared. Before Emily could answer, the clock chimed. One deep, thunderous toll. The creature screamed, a horrible, ear-tearing shriek that rattled the walls. Its body twisted, contorted, and flickered in and out of existence like a corrupted video frame. Emily grabbed Michael's hand. This house is not haunted. It's trapped. It's looping midnight. Why? Michael asked breathlessly. Then Emily realized. Her throat tightened. She whispered, "Because I wrote about it." The creature froze at the words. Emily continued, her voice trembling. I wrote a story last week about a thing that appears every night at midnight, a thing trapped between moments of time, a thing that follows you wherever you go until you acknowledge it. Michael's eyes widened in disbelief. And everything I wrote, it's happening? The creature crawled rapidly towards her. Emily stumbled backwards. No, stop! But it didn't attack. It leaned close to her face. Its eyes, hundreds of them, focused on her. It finished the ending, it whispered with 100 overlapping voices. Right how I end. Emily's breath froze. The creature was not trying to kill her. It was demanding something. Her story wasn't finished. Michael grabbed her arm. Emily, it wants you to write its ending. The creature's limbs wrapped around Emily, gently, not hurting her, but holding her in place. It whispered through dozens of mouths, "Release me, or I will stay. Forever." Her mind spun. If she wrote its ending, would it disappear? Would it die? Or would she trap herself instead? Suddenly, the creature's grip tightened. Her ribs compressed painfully. "Emily," Michael yelled, trying to pull her free. "You have to choose. Now." Her vision blurred. The room shifted. The creature's eyes glowed brighter. She gasped. Okay, all right." The creatures froze, then slowly let go. Michael rushed to Emily, holding her up. "You're crazy. You can't do what it wants." Emily wiped her tears and stared at the creature with shaking determination. "I don't have a choice." The house groaned. The walls warped. The clock ticked louder. Time was collapsing. Grab my laptop, she told Michael, voice trembling. I'm going to end this. The creature stepped back into the darkness, waiting, watching. And Emily sat down at the desk, hands shaking, knowing her next words might decide whether she lived or unleashed something far worse. Emily's fingers hovered over her laptop keyboard, trembling violently. The screen glowed in the dim light like a doorway she was afraid to step through. Michael stood behind her, still catching his breath, still shaken from the creature's touch. The house was silent now. Too silent. Not a creak, not a whisper. Not even the sound of breathing, except from the darkness behind the staircase, where the creature waited, watching. Emily swallowed hard. Michael, whatever happens, don't interrupt me. I have to write it exactly as it wants. Michael gripped her shoulder. Emily, what if writing it makes it stronger? What if this isn't about ending the story at all, but about completing something it needs? Emily stared at the blinking cursor. I don't think it'll let me stop. Michael turned to look at the creature. It hadn't moved an inch, but its shadow stretched across the wall, pulsing like a heartbeat. Emily typed the first sentence. The creature stepped out of the darkness. Before she could finish, the creature took a single step forward, as if responding to her words. Michael's eyes widened. Emily, it's copying what you type. Emily's skin turned cold. She typed faster. And it began to fade. The creature flickered, its limbs dissolving like smoke in the wind. A surge of relief washed over Emily. But before she could take another breath, the creature snapped violently back into full form and a deep, rattling growl echoed from its chest. Michael stepped between them. Emily, what happened? Emily reread the last line. Her stomach twisted. I wrote it wrong, she whispered. The creature crouched low, bones cracking, head twisting in a full circle as if warning her. Michael dragged a chair next to her. Tell me what you think it wants. Emily stared at her unfinished sentence, thinking hard. I think it wants a true ending, not a fake one, not a happy one, not one forced onto the story. Michael frowned. So, what's the real ending? Emily whispered, I don't know yet. The house suddenly groaned like a living thing. The walls bent inward. All the lights flickered violently. Michael grabbed Emily. Whatever you're going to write, write it now. Emily typed again, fingers flying. The creature stepped out of the darkness because it was trapped between moments of time. The creature slowly lifted its head. Its many eyes blinked in sync. Emily kept typing, and it wanted to be free. A low hum came from the creature. Not a growl, not a warning, but something like agreement. Michael whispered, Emily, I think it understands you. Emily typed faster. It wasn't born from nightmares. It was created by someone who wrote it into existence. The shadow on the wall pulsed brighter. Emily felt cold sweat roll down her spine. She typed on, and the creature could only die if its creator chose an ending. The creature's limbs began to curl inward like it was bracing for something. Michael held tightly onto Emily's shoulder. Okay, that's it. That's your way out. Write how it dies. But Emily hesitated. What if I kill it wrong? What if it needs something else? Michael stared at her. Emily, it nearly killed you. I know, but that doesn't mean its death will fix anything. Before Michael could argue, the creature suddenly rushed forward. Michael pulled Emily off the chair as its arm smashed into the desk, sending the laptop sliding across the floor. Emily screamed. Michael shoved her behind him. The creature crawled onto the desk, its limbs folding like spider legs, its face lowering until it filled the entire space between them. Its voice was 1,000 whispers at once. Finish the story. Emily scrambled toward the laptop on the floor. The creature didn't stop her. It backed away, almost respectfully. She picked up the laptop and climbed onto the couch. Michael stood beside her, gripping a broken piece of wood like a weapon. The creature waited patiently. head tilted. Emily began typing again. This time her hands shook not from fear, but from realization. The creature didn't want death. It wanted freedom. Michael's head snapped toward her. Emily, what are you doing? Emily ignored him. Her eyes were locked on the screen, her breathing steadying, her mind finally understanding. The creature wasn't a monster. It wasn't evil. It was trapped in a story someone else abandoned. A story with no end. The creature stood taller, its posture almost human. Yelled, "Stop writing that! We don't know what freeing it means!" Emily typed faster. Michael grabbed her wrist. Emily. She pulled her hand away. It's suffering. Suffering doesn't mean you unleash it onto the world. Emily's voice trembled. You didn't hear what it said. Michael frowned. What did it say? Emily whispered. It said it will stay. Forever. Unless I let it go. Michael's face went pale. You can't release something that controls time, something that can appear anywhere, something that knows your name. Emily looked up at the creature. Its body was still twisted and monstrous, but its eyes were no longer hungry. They were desperate, lost, waiting. Emily placed her hands back on the keyboard. Michael stepped back, shaking his head. Emily, please! She typed the final lines. So the writer set the creature free. And the moment she finished the story, the creature stepped out of her world. The house fell completely silent. The creature slowly lifted its head. Its body shimmered, fading into silver dust. Its many eyes blinked one last time. Then softly, like a sigh of gratitude, its voice whispered, "Thank you." And it vanished. Completely. Emily exhaled shakily, falling to her knees. Michael rushed to her. Are you okay? Emily, talk to me. She nodded, tears falling. It's gone. He hugged her tightly. Thank God, it's over. But just as he said the words, Emily's laptop chimed. A new document appeared on the screen. Title, The Rule She Didn't Know. Emily frowned. What? The document opened on its own. One single sentence appeared, typed by invisible hands. Every creature you free must be replaced. Emily's blood turned to ice. Michael whispered, Emily, what does that mean? Behind them, the grandfather clock struck midnight, and Emily felt something cold grip her ankle.
A cold hand wrapped around Emily's ankle. She froze. Michael grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Emily, don't move! But the grip tightened. Slow, icy, deliberate. Emily looked down. Nothing was there. Just her own shadow on the floor. But it wasn't still. It was moving. Its arms stretched up from the ground, gripping her leg like a second silhouette trying to climb into her skin. Emily gasped, Emily, my shadow! He didn't let her finish. He yanked her hard, pulling her free just long enough for her to stumble backward. Her shadow snapped back to normal. But it wasn't hers anymore. It stood up, detached from her feet, rising from the floor like liquid darkness, forming a human shape, her height, her stance, her outline. A perfect copy. Michael backed up. Emily, that thing, it's you! Emily heard the creature's final message echo in her mind. Every creature you free must be replaced. Her shadow tilted its head, then stepped toward her. Michael grabbed the broken chair leg. Stay behind me. But Emily knew something he didn't. You can't fight a shadow. The shadow moved faster. Michael swung wildly. It passed straight through the figure, hitting nothing but stale air. The shadow reached Emily and pressed its hand against her chest. Her lungs seized. Cold sank down her spine. Her vision blurred around the edges. The shadow began pulling itself into her, forcing its way under her skin, like ink spreading through veins. Emily screamed, dropping to her knees. Michael tried to pull her back, but his hands went straight through the shadow. Emily's voice came out hollow. Michael,
It's taking my place. No! Michael shouted. Fight it! Emily shook as the shadow merged deeper. Her heartbeat slowed. Her limbs numbed. Her voice grew faint. It needs a host to keep the story alive. Michael held her face. Emily, look at me! I'm not letting you go! But Emily smiled weakly. A sad, knowing smile. You already did, when I wrote the ending. Her eyes clouded with darkness. The room trembled. The grandfather clock chimed again, even though it was nowhere near midnight. The shadow's final piece slid inside. Emily's body went still. For a moment, there was silence. Then, her eyes opened. Black. Completely black. She stood up slowly, movements too smooth, too controlled. Not human. Emily! Michael whispered, voice cracking. She blinked. When she spoke, it wasn't Emily's voice. It was layered, echoed, empty. The writer is gone. Michael stumbled back in horror. The creature wearing Emily's skin smiled, not cruelly, but knowingly. The story continues. The lights in the house shut off, one by one. Click. 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 Until only the faint moonlight from the window remained. The creature wearing Emily turned toward the stairs, and as it walked away, it spoke the final words. Midnight follows us now. The grandfather clock struck one last time. End.